Part 2. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 11. Feng Qingxiu felt that the price was right and agreed to the transaction. I brought 10 or 20 kilograms of rice and noodles, and 20 or 30 eggs, but I didn't bring a scale. I have it at home, I'll bring it over later. The old lady ran away in a hurry. Feng Qingxiu finished her buns in a few seconds and walked towards the old elm tree. Not long after waiting under the old elm tree, Feng Qingxiu saw the old lady coming with a man in his 30s from a distance. The latter was carrying a bamboo basket on his back and walking in a hurry. "This is my son," the old lady pointed at the man but did not say his name. Feng Qingxiu and the old lady walked behind the old elm tree, while the man watched the wind. Seeing no one around, Feng Qingxiu took out the egg bag and opened it to show the old lady. "Oh, these are really eggs, they look so fresh," the old lady beamed, and quickly weighed the scales. They totaled 3 kilograms and 20 taels, and quickly took them out and put them into the small basket she brought, and then weighed the rice noodles that Feng Qingxiu brought out. Rice is 5 pounds and 1 liang, flour is 8 pounds and 5 ounces, and brown rice is 7 pounds and 3 ounces. Although it is brown rice, it is also a fine grain. In the final reckoning, Feng Qingxiu wiped out the small change, 120 yuan for rice noodles and 15 yuan for eggs. Rice and noodles cost 6 yuan per caddy, but eggs cost 5 yuan per caddy. Upon hearing this account, the old lady showed a pained expression. "It's expensive, but you still have to buy it. Nowadays, food is so precious that even money cannot buy it." The old lady is not willing to let go of this rare opportunity. Moreover, if fine grains are exchanged for coarse grains, these fine grains can be exchanged for 60 or 70 kilograms of coarse grains. Therefore, the old lady took out a big stack of unity from her arms, counted 14 of them and handed them to Feng Qingxiu. "Girl, I know these things are not easy to come by, and I won't take advantage of you. I'll give you 140 yuan, and come back to me next time you find something good. The wall you lean against to eat the buns belongs to my house. Do not worry." Feng Qingxiu was not polite and put the money in her arms, actually putting it into the space. There is no place that reassures her more than space. Then, the old lady and her son carrying the bamboo basket left in a hurry, and Feng Qingxiu also left the old elm tree shortly after. After wandering around for half an hour, Feng Qingxiu found 2 black market trading places before returning to the market with an empty basket on her back. With money, Feng Qingxiu had the confidence to enter a department store. There were not many people in the store, and even the few customers were mostly looking at things and few buying. The salespersons at the counter were all sitting idle, chatting and paying no attention to the customers. Feng Qingxiu wanted to buy 2 pairs of shoes for herself and her sister, a pair of single ones for now and a pair of cotton ones for winter. She also wanted to buy a set of clothes for Feng Qingxiu to save her from going bare legs every day, so she went to a store selling ready-made shoes. In front of the counter. "Comrade, how do you sell those shoes?" Feng Qingxiu asked, pointing to a pair of cloth shoes worn by children. The salesperson was a young woman who was knitting a sweater. When she heard her ask, she raised her head, glanced up, and snorted, "Do you have a ticket?" Tickets? Feng Qingxiu was stunned. She didn't expect that this era was the era of tickets. The salesperson said sarcastically, "Why come to a department store without a ticket?" Contempt, beyond words. Feng Qingxiu felt very uncomfortable and asked, "Do I need a ticket to buy anything? Can't I buy it if I have money?" To buy something, of course you need both money and tickets. Both are indispensable. The salesperson looked arrogant. "If you don't have a ticket, don't hang out in front of me, blocking the light from my sweater." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 12. After saying this, the salesperson muttered in a low voice, "Really, even a poor guy without a ticket dares to come to a department store. Feng Qingxiu was angry and wanted to argue with her, but she was afraid of being laughed at, so she turned around and left. No tickets, no way to buy anything? Feng Qingxiu was so angry that she suddenly remembered what was mentioned in the information she read in the morning, and couldn't help but sigh. She remembered that the 1960s and 1970s were the era of tickets, that is, many things required tickets in addition to money. You couldn't buy things if you had money but no tickets, and you couldn't buy anything if you had tickets but no money. There were a lot of clothes and shoes in her space, some of which were worn by Feng Qingyun's age. Most of them did not conform to the aesthetics of this era. The handmade shoes I bought at the market later fit the bill, but they were all new. Even if they met the current aesthetic, Feng Qingxiu did not dare to let her sisters wear them. They were too eye-catching and could not explain the origin of the clothes and shoes. She was ready, even if she bought new ones, she would make them old. If she couldn't buy them, she would use the ones in the space to make them old. An old lady with a sallow complexion and simple but clean clothes saw the scene just now and felt that she couldn't bear it. She walked up to Feng Qingxiu and kindly reminded her, "Girl, go to the old wardrobe table and ask if there are any old shoes, old ones don't need votes." Feng Qingxiu asked curiously, "Do you have any second-hand ones?" The old lady thought for a long time before she understood the meaning of second-hand and nodded. Some people follow the fashion and want to wear new clothes. If they don't have enough money, they will sell their old clothes at a lower price, and then use cloth tickets and money to buy new ones. But some people don't have tickets, so they will go buy old clothes and shoes. This is called joy. Mom, thank you for the tip, I'll go take a look right now. Feng Qingxiu reached into her backpack, and with a thought, 2 steamed buns appeared in her hand. She took them out and quietly put them in the old lady's pocket. The old lady was stunned for a moment, then put her hand on her pocket. "Daughter." Her lips moved and she felt the soft warmth under her hands. After all, she did not say any words of refusal, but just kept saying, "Thank you, my daughter, thank you, thank you. With these 2 steamed buns, my grandson can have 2 more meals." She knows better than anyone how precious fine grains are. Even in her own family, it is difficult for her grandson to eat white flour steamed buns. With Feng Qingxiu's eyes, Feng Qingxiu could see that this old lady's life was more difficult and thinner than the old lady before, and the most difficult reason for everyone's poverty and thinness must be the lack of food, without exception. Because of the kindness of the old lady, Feng Qingxiu whispered as he passed by her, "Tomorrow I will go under the Red Army Bridge and want to exchange the thick and thin grains that I finally got for money and things that I don't have." The Red Army Bridge is a black market trading place in the county town, located in a relatively remote outskirts. Mentioning the Red Army Bridge is equivalent to mentioning the black market. The old lady was excited for a moment, her eyes flashed with joy, and then she hurried home. Feng Qingxiu stood there for a moment and found the second-hand clothes and shoes counter that the old man mentioned. As expected, there were old clothes hanging and old shoes on display. There were not many in number, and there were even fewer other old things. The salesperson here also had a better attitude than the previous one. When Feng Qingxiu came over, he stood up quickly with a smile on his face. "What do you want to buy, gay?" Feng Qingxiu told her request, and the salesperson immediately took out a few children's clothes and shoes for her to choose from. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 13. How much do these pairs of shoes cost? And these clothes? Feng Qingxiu didn't dare to buy more, so she picked out a pair of cloth shoes and a pair of cotton shoes for Feng Qingyun. She also picked out a whole outfit, a small cotton padded jacket with red bottom and floral flowers, a pair of small cotton trousers with blue bottom and white flowers, and there is a military green jacket and blue pants worn outside the cotton coat. The clothes are all old, but 60% to 70% new, clean and unpatched. Feng Qingxiu had never taken care of children before, so she could only buy clothes for Feng Qingyun through visual inspection. The salesperson replied, "The children's single shoes cost 30 cents, and cotton shoes cost 70 cents. Although these clothes are old, the seller's family is in good condition. The child has only worn them for 2 years. If you don't want a cloth ticket, you can give me 10 cents $2. If you have a quick hand, you will have it, but if you have a slow hand, you will not have it." In an era of scarcity, many things are in short supply. Feng Qingxiu paid the money without thinking and took the clothes and shoes. Later, Feng Qingxiu picked out a pair of cloth shoes with black uppers and 1,000-layer solace for herself and spent 2 yuan. After thinking about it, he spent another 2 yuan to buy Feng Qingyun a small coat that was washed white and patched. No tickets are required, even if it is second-hand. The price is a bit expensive. The salesperson said this while collecting money from her. Feng Qingxiu didn't buy any clothes for herself. She just wore the tattered clothes she had on her body. When she had the conditions, she would make her own clothes, or take out the clothes in the space that fit the aesthetics of the era and change them before wearing them. The main purpose of her coming to the city was to buy clothes and shoes for Feng Qingyun. The little baby, wearing nothing but an old cotton padded jacket worn by an adult, was really pitiful. Even if Feng Qingxiu was not the original owner, she still felt sad seeing Feng Qingyun like this. What's more, there is cause and effect. She borrowed the body of the original owner to be reborn, and she should bear the responsibilities of the original owner during his lifetime. After leaving the department store, Feng Qingxiu didn't feel like shopping and went straight home. When they were approaching the entrance of the village, Feng Qingxiu felt something in her heart. There were 3 more dough balls made of cornmeal mixed with cabbage leaves in her backpack. They were about the size of a fist, with purchased clothes and shoes underneath. A few decades later, in the 21st century, many people pay attention to health and eat whole grains, so there are people selling whole grain laudu in the streets and alleys. While stocking up on ready-to-eat food, Feng Qingxiu bought a lot and put them in the space. Feng Qingxiu did not go to her second uncle's house to pick up her sister. Instead, she took a detour and went to the home of Captain Feng Xuanzhuo. "Second uncle, second aunt, are you at home?" Feng Qingxiu called twice at the door, and a wizened old man wearing patched old military uniforms came out. It is inappropriate to call him an old man, because Feng Xuanzhu is only 50 years old at most. However, the hair tied by the wind has turned white, and the bronze face is full of wrinkles. "Qingxiu? Where did you come from? What's the matter?" According to seniority, Feng Xuanzhuan is Feng Qingxiu's uncle in the family, ranking second among brothers, so Feng Qingxiu calls him the second uncle, and he is quite fond of it. Amiable. It was already noon, but because every household was short of food, the lunch meal was moved to around 2 o'clock. In this way, I eat 2 meals a day and go to bed when it gets dark. So many people were basking in the sun and chatting at the door. When they saw Feng Qingxiu looking for the wind to tie up, they all looked over. Where can they come from? I went to beg for food and came back, otherwise Qingyun and I would have gone hungry. After Feng Qingxiu explained the reason for going out, she said bluntly, "Second uncle, I'm here to ask you for something." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 14. What's the matter? Just tell me. If I can help, I won't say no. The implication of Feng Xuanzhu's words is also very clear, that is, he can't help. You can't blame him for not helping, especially regarding food. Feng Xuanzhu knew Feng Qingxiu's family affairs, but every family had problems that were difficult to recite, and he couldn't control them. The two Fengqingxiu sisters were not the only ones suffering from hunger and cold. There were so many people who had starved to death and frozen to death that he was already numb. Fengqingxiu smiled, and then sighed, "It's nothing else. I just want to ask the second uncle to take pity on me and King Yun, and allocate one of the shabby houses and courtyards of our production team that no one lives in for us to live in." Speaking of this, Fengqingxiu wiped her eyes, which looked like she was wiping tears to others. King Yun is young, so she relies on me to go out to beg for food. Occasionally, I can meet kind-hearted people to make ends meet. However, living in a thatched shed is not good. The weather is getting colder and colder, and we sisters have no blankets to keep out the cold. How to survive? So, I thought about those shabby houses that no one lives in. At least there is a wall to block the wind. Without waiting for Feng Zhan to speak, Feng Qingxiu hurriedly said, "It doesn't need to be big or good, as long as it can block the wind and cover the top of the head from the rain. After all, it is a home." Feng Qingxiu made such a request in person just to prevent Feng Xian from being talked about. She had already planned to give Feng Xuanzu a gift secretly. Without saying goodbye, a bag of grain was enough. But it is definitely not now. Giving it in the future will be a way of repaying the favor. Giving it now will inevitably lead to the suspicion of bribery, and it will be easy for people to report it. Although everyone is having a hard time, no one will care about them at this point. Sure enough, as soon as she finished speaking, the fellow villagers basking in the sun next to her spoke up. "Captain, just promise her," as she said, "it is a family after all. None of us have a hard time, but the boss here can help. King Yun is only 5 years old. A 5-year-old child looks like he is 2 or 3 years old. How pitiful." That's right, just tie it up. Just agree. We don't envy the two sisters for getting the free house." Feng Qingyun heard the noise at her second uncle's house and ran out barefoot. "Sister," running to Feng Qingxiu, Feng Qingyun stopped and leaned against her legs tightly. Although there are more people walking barefoot, everyone feels pitiful when they see such a skinny child, wrapped in a ragged cotton jacket worn by adults, with bare feet. Feng Qingxiu picked up her sister and said, "King Yun, I didn't look for you, why did you come out?" "Sister," Feng Qingyun hugged her neck tightly, looking at the crowd of spectators with two big eyes. Seeing this, Feng Xuanzu sighed deeply. In fact, many people wanted to live in unowned houses, but he never let go. Like Feng Qingxiu's brother and sister-in-law, the two families share 3 thatched houses, and they have long been eyeing the houses left by the poor families in the production team. For this kind of thing, if there is one thing, there are two, and Feng Xuanzu cannot agree to it. But as everyone said, the two sisters Feng Qingxiu are different. They were kicked out of the house and started a new family, with the older girl taking a little girl. Since everyone says so, I'm going to find a shabby house left by an impoverished family for Qingxiu and my sister to live in. As everyone said, it's not for anything else, just so that they can have a place to protect themselves from the wind and rain. But if someone asks me for help again, I won't agree to it unless I take the food to the production team to exchange it. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 15. Everyone laughed after hearing this. We have no objection. If the dilapidated house is in a bad state, we can help repair it. That's right. The most important thing about the house we live in is the walls and roof. I cut a lot of thatch at my house. It was originally intended to be used as firewood for cooking pots. If there is light snow, it can be used to make the roof. Feng Xuanzu quickly said, "No, I'll give them the 3 huts in the west. The owners of those 3 huts died less than half a month ago. The walls and roofs are in good condition and don't need to be repaired." Uncle Feng hesitated for a moment and asked, "Is it too far?" "How far is it?" Our production team is less than a mile from east to west. If something happens, we will know it just by shouting. Feng Xuanzai waved his hand, only that house is better, the other houses are better. There's no roof. Thatch can also be used to make a fire, so if you are quick, you can get rid of it long ago. Uncle Feng listened and stopped talking. The others had no objections, so Feng Xuanzao led Feng Qingxiu and the two sisters towards the west. Indeed, as he said, the road is not far. After a while, they stopped in front of a three-thatched house whose fence had been pulled out and the yard was gone. Without anyone taking care of it, even for only half a month, the front and back of the house were much desolate, with withered yellow weeds dancing in the autumn wind. Oh, it looked fine yesterday. Today, the two wooden doors of this house have disappeared. I don't know whose hands were so quick. Feng tied up Stomping's feet and brought Feng Qingxiu into the house. His eyes were dim. The window of the thatched house was opened very small, and the light was weak. Fortunately, there was sunlight at the door, so I could see clearly what was going on inside. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if there is no door. At least the east and west rooms can keep out the wind and rain, which is much better than a thatched shed." She was satisfied, really. The room was empty, and all the original furniture had been stolen long ago. There were only 2 or 3 broken porcelain bowls and a few pairs of chopsticks piled in the corner. Maybe they were used by dead people and were very worn, so they were not there. People take it. Feng Xuanzi brought Feng Qingxiu and Feng Qingyun out of the house and walked around behind the house. The back of the house is also overgrown with grass. 2 tattered beds are leaning against the back wall, which are mortuary beds. However, there is a river 3 or 4 meters behind, flowing diagonally to the southeast. There are only 3 or 4 trees planted on the riverside. Barkless poplar with some leaves at the top. The fallen leaves rustled and the water gurgled. It feels a bit solitary and very quiet. After Feng Xuanzwen left, Feng Qingxiu hugged Feng Qingyun and kissed her forehead. "Qingyun, are you happy that we have our own home?" "Our own home?" Feng Qingyun asked repeatedly. Seeing sister nodding, she narrowed her eyes happily. "It's great, sister, we have our own home and don't have to live in a thatched hut. If you have a home and a house, who wants to live in a hut?" What makes Feng Qingxiu most satisfied is that this location is some distance away from the homes of other members of the production team. This means that the penultimate house on the west end of the production team is 40 or 50 meters away, so we can't smell each other's cooking. Instead of going to her second uncle's house to pick up Feng Qingyun, Feng Qingxiu took out the steamed buns from the basket, and then took out 2 large plain stuffed buns, each as big as an adult man's fist, and put them in the basket to cool, while taking out a small bag of rice from the space. It's strange that the food you come back from begging for food is still hot when you get home. After it cooled down, Feng Qingxiu took it out, ate one for herself, and handed one to Feng Qingyun. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 16. Qingyun, I met a lot of kind people today. Some gave me steamed buns, some gave me wawadu, and one gave me a small bag of rice. Eat the steamed buns quickly and boil water for you to take a bath after eating. Good Samaritans, I also gave you old clothes and shoes. Feng Qingxiu thought carefully about her words and told Feng Qingyun like this. Sister, the buns are so delicious. I have never eaten anything so delicious. Feng Qingyun's eyes lit up when she saw the buns. She just took a bite when she heard these words. Rice? Clothes? Feng Qingyun was extremely surprised. Sister, are you so kind-hearted? Do I really have clothes to wear? Feng Qingxiu held the bun in one hand and took out rice and clothes and shoes in the other. Seeing these things, Feng Qingyun no longer had any doubts, but jumped up happily. Sister, that's great. I have clothes to wear, I have shoes to wear, and we will also have rice porridge to drink. Keep your voice down, don't let others know. Hearing what Feng Qingxiu said, Feng Qingyun immediately shut up and snuggled next to Feng Qingxiu, eating the buns with big mouthfuls. His eyes were glued to the clothes and shoes in the backpack and he refused to move away. His face was flushed with excitement. Sister, that's great. I'm so happy. I have clothes to wear and shoes to wear. Feng Qingyun couldn't help the excitement in her heart and kept repeating these words while eating. Feng Qingxiu smiled, Qingyun, sister will definitely let you live a good life. Yeah, Feng Qingyun believed that her sister would not lie to herself. After eating the buns, her hunger subsided a little, and Feng Qingxiu asked Feng Qingyun to look after the basket at home while she went to transport the belongings from the thatched shed. All their belongings are earthen pots, wooden basins, porcelain bowls and some firewood. In the memory of the original owner, firewood is also very precious. So, Feng Qingxiu put the porcelain bowl in the earthen pot and the earthen pot in the wooden basin. She held the wooden basin in one hand and the bundle of firewood on her back with the other. When she was about to leave the hut, Feng Qingxiu the second sister-in-law came out to interfere. Feng Qingxiu, you can leave, but you are not allowed to take away the firewood. This belongs to our family. Sister-in-law Feng didn't have a sarcastic face, but she had a sarcastic and vicious mouth. She became extremely angry when she thought that the house she and her husband had chosen was taken away for nothing by Feng Qingxiu. Feng Qingxiu smiled coldly, really? But I worked so hard to carry these firewood home from the mountain. Although the original owner was not a coward, she did not dare to go against her brother and sister-in-law on many things. Now she is not a vegetarian. If I say it's from our family, it's from our family, sister-in-law Feng said firmly. Okay, I'll ask everyone to come and comment later. Maybe we can ask the captain to make the decision and redistribute the grain after autumn. The original owner often works and has work points. According to the work points, the grain he gets will definitely be more than 20 or 30 kilograms. Sweet potatoes, not to mention Feng Qingyun should also have some rations. It can only be said that the rest were eaten by the two brothers and sisters. This kind of thing is something that the people do not complain to the officials. Feng Qingxiu didn't find anyone to make the decision, so the people in this family would not be too meddlesome. Everyone knew that it was difficult for an upright official to handle household affairs. Hearing what Feng Qingxiu said, and seeing that her attitude was very tough and her demeanor was very different from before, sister-in-law Feng shivered. She really didn't dare to find anyone to judge because they were unfair, so she glared hatefully. Feng Qingxiu glanced at it, spat, and turned back to the house to discuss with her husband, brother, and sister-in-law. Many people are like Mrs. Feng, who bullies the weak and fears the strong. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 17. Feng Qingxiu carried more than a dozen bundles of firewood back to her home, and carried a few bundles of thatch. When she got home, she quickly piled an earthen stove with stones on one side of the door and sat on the earthen pot. The water in the earthen jar is scooped from the river. She used matches to light the fire, and she told Feng Qingyun that they were given to her by well-wishers. In reality? In fact, she was afraid that the lighter would no longer be usable one day, so she hoarded a lot of matches in the space and now uses them. It wasn't that she had foresight, but that she knew very well that ordinary lighters would not be able to make a light if the liquid in them was used up. Feng Qingyun squatted in front of the stove to light the fire, and the firelight reflected her excited face. Sister, what a kind person. Feng Qingxiu shook her head and smiled. While Feng Qingyun was watching the fire and boiling water, she simply cleaned the house and spread a thick layer of thatch on the ground in the east corner. This haystack is the temporary bed for the two sisters. After boiling the hot water, pour it into the wooden basin, mix it with cold water, wash Feng Qingyun's hair and bathe, put on the floral pants that she sewed when she rested on the way back, and then put on the cotton jacket, pants, and coat she bought today. It's not that she doesn't pay attention to hygiene, so she just bought it and put it on Feng Qingyun. It's just that Feng Qingyun really needs the clothes on her body. The gown on Feng Qingyun's body was not the unpatched one, but the patched one. The clothes worn on Feng Qingyun were a bit too big and looked a bit empty, but there was nothing that could be done about it. Feng Qingxiu was inexperienced, and visual inspection was not that accurate. Moreover, Feng Qingyun would grow taller, so a bigger one would be just right. Feng Qingyun tugged on the skirt of her clothes, stamped her feet, and smiled happily. Sister, sister, I have clothes, I have shoes, she repeated over and over again impatiently. When people ask where the clothes came from, just say that I got them from many people when I went out, Feng Qingxiu warned. Sister, I originally asked for it. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, yes, we just begged for it. But we can't tell others that we begged for steamed buns, eggs and rice. If someone asks us what delicious food we begged for, just say it's sweet potato noodles mixed with sorghum noodles. Feng Qingyun nodded, I understand, sister. They know that we are coming to have delicious food, and they will also beg for food. When there are more people begging for food, we will have less food. I won't tell them. The steamed buns mixed with sweet potato noodles and sorghum noodles are also delicious. I said they are the steamed buns eaten in our cafeteria. The steamed buns eaten in the cafeteria? Feng Qingxiu was confused. Soon, she remembered. The collective canteen has just been disbanded. Before, everyone ate from a big pot. What does the wawutu look like? It is a steamed bun made of sweet potato noodles mixed with corn and wheat straw stems and leaves, as well as sweet potato vines, and the stems and leaves of these crops account for 2/3. It is this kind of steamed buns that everyone treats as a treasure. They can only eat them during busy farming seasons, and usually drink thin soup. So smart, Feng Qingxiu touched Feng Qingyun's head. Although they only got along for half a day and a half, Feng Qingxiu found that the child in front of her was quite smart. It would be a shame not to send such a smart child to school. Feng Qingxiu decided to send her to school when she was 2 years older. When the college entrance examination opened, she was already in her 30s and might not have the chance to take the college entrance examination. But Feng Qingyun was only in her 20s and could go to college. This way only then will there be a better future. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 18. Worked all afternoon until the sun went down. Feng Qingxiu scooped up 2 meters and made some rice soup for dinner. Rice oil in rice soup is the most nourishing. She and Feng Qingyun have been lacking nutrition for a long time, and their stomachs have gradually shrunk due to hunger. Therefore, they need to nourish their stomachs and body step by step before they can resume a normal diet of meat and vegetables. Even if it was a bowl of rice soup, Feng Qingyun drank it in small sips as if it was a treasure. After rinsing his mouth, Feng Qingyun nestled in Feng Qingxiu's arms contentedly. The two sisters were nestled on the haystack, covered with the rotten cotton padded jacket that Feng Qingyun didn't wear. Because it hadn't been taken out and washed for a long time, the cotton padded jacket gave off an unpleasant smell. Feng Qingxiu frowned and held back. Yes, she prefers to be clean, but now it is different from the past. She can bear to wear the original owner's clothes, and naturally she can bear this rotten cotton padded jacket. If she wants to be hygienic, she has to slowly manage it. Only when conditions are met can we pay attention to hygiene. Sister, it's so nice. Feng Qingyun tugged on her sister's sleeves and murmured. Feng Qingxiu touched her sparse and soft yellow hair and said, Qingyun, my sister brought you to start your own business just because I want you to live a good life. Following our brother and sister-in-law, we are relying on others. We will not have enough to eat or clothe ourselves for the rest of our lives. Warm. Feng Qingyun raised her little face. Sister, what does it mean to look up to someone? Being dependent on others means relying on others to live your life. You can't make your own decisions about anything. Feng Qingxiu simply explained the meaning of looking up to others, and if she wanted to say anything else, Feng Qingyun said, Sister, I know, it's like we live with our brother and sister-in-law, and we live on the food that the sister-in-law allocates. If we still live there, even if we ask for delicious food, it will not end up in our own mouths. So smart, Feng Qingxiu praised. This kid reacts so quickly. Feng Qingyun was extremely proud, being praised by her sister. Feng Qingyun was brought up by Feng Qingxiu from the moment he was born. Feng Qingyun, who has never had a peaceful life, feels so happy now. There is food to eat, clothes to wear, and a house to live in. With food in your belly, you will naturally have a good night's sleep. When Feng Qingxiu got up early the next day, she made some more rice soup and took 2 hard-boiled eggs from the space while Feng Qingyun was still awake. She woke up Feng Qingyun and the 2 sisters ate them one by one. After eating and rinsing her mouth, Feng Qingxiu sent Feng Qingyun to her second uncle's house and asked her second aunt to take care of her. Feng Qingxiu was not sure when she would come back, so she left one of the watu for Qingyun and put it in a pocket sewn inside her coat. She told her that if she came back late, she would avoid everyone and eat the watu by herself at noon. As for the rice and the unpatched gown at home that Feng Qingyun was thinking about, Feng Qingxiu put them in her backpack and carried them with her. Although people are now upright, every household is living in a bare house, and it has reached the point where the house is not closed at night and the streets are not picked up, but who can guarantee that no one will be so hungry that he will steal things from a house where no one is home? When meeting Feng Qingxiu and sister Feng, second aunt Feng first noticed Feng Qingyun's clothes and was very surprised. Qingxiu, where did Qingyun get the clothes? These clothes look so good. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, I shamelessly went door to door to get it back with great difficulty. There were a few well-off and well-meaning people who heard what I said was pitiful, so they wore unwanted clothes for their children. Give me the clothes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 19. Is there such a good thing? Aunt Feng couldn't believe it. Good luck, Feng Qingxiu muttered vaguely, acting as if she didn't want to say more. Second aunt, please look at Qingyun and don't let her run around and be taken away. I'll go out again to get something to eat, otherwise, I won't be able to survive this winter. After hearing what she said, second aunt Feng was too embarrassed to ask, go ahead. Don't worry if Qingyun is here with me. When they were about to arrive at the county town, Feng Qingxiu put the original items in the backpack into the space, then took out a bag of flour and a bag of cornmeal from the space, but did not take out anything else, otherwise it would be too eye-catching. After thinking for a while, Feng Qingxiu took out 30 more eggs and 2 pounds of soybean oil. The oil in the space is either packed in large plastic buckets or sand jars. Of course, these containers are needed for large quantities. The odd bits are packed in clay pots, small plastic buckets, and glass bottles. At that time, Feng Qingxiu was cheap, and many of the tools for storing things were cheap. Plastic buckets and glass bottles were inconvenient to take out, so she finally found a clay pot in the corner containing soybean oil. She originally planned to take out some meat, and she had a lot of meat stored in her space, but considering that the residents in the city basically went door to door, the smell of stewed meat could easily spread to other people's noses, causing trouble, so she simply took the eggs. And the oil came out. When Feng Qingxiu arrived at the county seat, she went directly to the Red Army Bridge without going anywhere else. There were many people wandering around the bridge end of the Red Army Bridge and its vicinity, scattered everywhere, paying no attention to anyone, and looking around cautiously. Occasionally, 2 or 3 people would talk to each other for a word or two before turning around and walking away. And some people watched the wind from a distance. Feng Qingxiu, who was thin and sallow and dressed in ragged clothes, was obviously not someone who specialized in arresting black market transactions. No one stopped her from approaching the bridge. She noticed that Feng Qingxiu's backpack seemed to be very heavy, and immediately an elegant old woman in her 60s came up to her. She was dressed in clean old clothes and was as skinny as a stick with a disheveled face. She was carrying a bamboo basket and lowered her voice. "Greet. Daughter, do you have any food for sale? I want both coarse and fine grains, and I will exchange them with you." Feng Qingxiu was looking at her in a daze. After hearing this, she quietly replied, "I'm sorry, Aunt, I'm waiting for someone. If she doesn't want all the food I brought, I'll come and trade with you again, okay?" She has always respected the elderly and loved the young since she was a child. She was very sad when she saw the old people waiting for food deals in the black market. Fortunately, she had enough supplies in her space. After hearing this, the old woman agreed and staggered to the side to wait. Feng Qingxiu looked around for a moment and found that the old lady who reminded her last night had been waiting there for a long time, so she quickly walked over. "Auntie, you are here." Like the elegant old lady just now, this old lady also carried a bamboo basket on her back and covered it with a rag. "Daughter, let's trade somewhere else. There are too many people here." This was the first thing the old lady said when she saw Feng Qingxiu. Feng Qingxiu understood very well. So, the two left here one after the other. 10 minutes later, the two met, but there was no direct transaction. Instead, they moved to another place with no one around. "Mom, how much do you want?" "Daughter, how many do you have?" This was the first sentence the two of them said when they stopped to prepare for the transaction, and they were also spoken at the same time, superimposed on each other. Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but smile, and the old lady also laughed. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 20. Feng Qingxiu stretched out her hand and asked the old lady to speak first. The old lady did not refuse and said bluntly, "Daughter, you are a good girl, and I won't hide it from you. My family's life is not very easy, so I came here to scrape together everything. 40 or 50 yuan, look at how much grain I can buy, some fine grain and some coarse grain. The whole family is counting on high-priced grain to save their lives." Feng Qingxiu felt very sad when she heard this. She respects and feels sorry for the people of this era, because her grandparents lived in this era. "Auntie, let me tell you the truth. We don't care what the price of food is on the black market. Besides, I don't have a scale to measure the amount of food. So I will give you all the food I brought today and give me all your money." Feng Qingxiu opened the backpack and revealed 2 bags of food inside. Although such a cloth bag does not hold a lot of food, it still contains about 10 kilograms, which adds up to more than 20 kilograms. In terms of current food prices, it is very expensive. The old lady burst into tears. Of course she could see that without $100 she couldn't buy so much food in the basket. "Daughter, thank you, thank you." The old lady was so grateful that she hurriedly took out a handkerchief bag from her arms and opened it to reveal a stack of money. There were large amounts of 10 yuan in denominations, as well as 1 and 2 yuan, 1 and 2 cents, and 1 and 2 cents. This is $48.57. Feng Qingxiu took the money and poured the food in her pocket into the food container the old lady brought. The old lady also noticed the eggs and soybean oil in the basket. Her lips moved slightly, but in the end without saying a word, she bent towards Feng Qingxiu and left in a hurry, carrying the bamboo basket on her back. Feng Qingxiu remembered the old woman waiting at the Red Army Bridge. She always felt that she had a temperament very similar to her grandmother, so she packed 2 or 3 bags of grain and returned to the Red Army Bridge. The old woman hadn't bought any food yet. When she saw her, she walked up to her and said, "My daughter. Let's go." Feng Qingxiu didn't even ask her what price she could pay for the food. After the conversation, she dropped these words and turned around to leave. After a while, the old woman followed him in surprise. The two met at a place where no one was paying attention, and the old woman said happily, "Daughter, are you willing to give me the food in exchange?" "What do you want to exchange for?" Feng Qingxiu asked with a smile. At this time, what she was thinking was that while she could save herself, she could help anyone she could. The money and things were both low income, so why did the old man in front of her look so much like her grandmother? Meeting her was like meeting my grandmother. The old woman reached out and pulled out a palm-sized black cloth bag from her sleeve and handed it to Feng Qingxiu. Feng Qingxiu took it in her hand and untied the pocket, and suddenly a flash of light flashed before her eyes. She found that there were actually 2 gold bracelets, 1 finger wide, made of silk workmanship, inlaid with rubies, shining with precious light. Only almost identical. "Auntie," Feng Qingxiu said in surprise. "Take it, daughter, you are willing to let me exchange things for food, I am already very grateful," the old woman said. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly tightened the tie. "Auntie, this is too expensive. No matter how valuable it is, it was a thing of the past. Now we can't use it as food or drink." The old woman smiled bitterly and said with a very sad expression, "Daughter, I'll tell you the truth. Although the bank purchases gold to support national construction, the bank it would be a pity to only buy gold and dig out gems. This is the craft of old master craftsmen. The most important thing is that I don't dare to go to the bank.